Hi everyone, my name is Victory, also known as Vic's Empire. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, like, and share my videos. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how to make this beautiful kaftan dress. And if you're interested in this, keep on watching and let's get started. I made use of a 3.5 yards of Ankara fabric and half yard of crepe material. I went ahead to fold the fabric into two for the front panel and for the back panel. This is the front piece and this is the back piece. The first step here is to rule the starting point. After ruling the starting point, I went ahead to measure the full length of the dress. The full length of this dress is 60 inches. I went ahead to add 2 extra inches for the hem allowance. The next thing I went ahead to do is to mark the shoulder measurement of this dress. After the shoulder measurement of this dress, we'll go ahead to mark the sleeve length. The sleeve length I'll be working with is 10 inches, but because I'll be adding a 2 inches band, I went ahead to mark 8 inches plus half inches of seam allowance. From the center of the fold, I went ahead to mark a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 1 inches for the back piece. Then for the front piece, I went ahead to mark a neck depth of 8 inches. I went ahead to connect the lines together. Since the front piece is a v-neck line, I went ahead to connect the neck depth to neck width just as you see in the video. Now, in order to get the shoulder slope, I went ahead to mark 1 inches below the starting point and connected the line to the neck width. The next thing I went ahead to do was to add half inch of seam allowance on top of the shoulder line, and then I connected the lines together. To get the sleeve opening, I'll be using the measurement of our bust point as a guide, which is 11 inches, and then I went ahead to connect the lines together. I measured from the center fold to the sleeve length, which gave me 17.5 inches, then went ahead to mark the same thing on the bust point. Connecting the lines from the shoulder to the bust point, this new line is called the sleeve opening. The next thing I went ahead to do is to measure the largest part of our body circumference, which is our bust circumference divided by 4, adding an extra 4 inches allowance to it. Take note that if the hip circumference is larger than the bust circumference, you work with your hip circumference. But in this case, our bust circumference was larger, so I worked with it. Next thing I went ahead to do was to curve the lines to give me the armhole shape. The next thing I went ahead to do is to cut the material following the directions of the chalk, just as you see me doing in this video. Because I'll be adding a side slit to this dress, I went ahead to measure from the hemline upward 14 inches. And then I went ahead to notch it. Depending on how wide you want your slit to be, you can measure it higher, you can measure it lower than 14 inches. The next thing I went ahead to do is to cut the facing for the back piece. I placed the back piece on this small piece of fabric, cutting the exact shape of the neck just as you see me in the video doing. Because I'll be weaving the edges of the facing, I went ahead to place the right side of the facing to the right side of the material to stitch the neckline with half an inch. Now, in order to cut the facing for the front piece, I'll be working with the measurement of our waistline as a guide, which is 18 inches, and then I'll add extra 2 inches, which is 20 inches, and then I'll connect the lines together. Next thing I went ahead to do is to place the front piece on the facing to cut out the neckline, just as you see me doing. The next thing I went ahead to do is to mark 4 inches from the neck width, repeating the same thing on the shape of the v-neck. And in getting to the center point of the v-neck, I stopped marking 4 inches. From this point, I placed my measuring tape upwards and marked 8 inches. And then I went ahead to connect all points together, just as you see me in the video doing. And then I went ahead to cut it out, following the direction of the chalk. The next thing I went ahead to do is to cut an interfacing for this fabric. And then I went ahead to iron it. just as you see. The next step is to notch this cuffed part, so it will be very easy to fold the edges. Without notching, you will find it difficult to fold the edges. After notching, it became easy for me to fold inward. I'll take this to the ironing board to give it a good press. This is how it looks like after being ironed. I went ahead to place the right side of the facing on the wrong side of the fabric to stitch the V shape following the direction of my finger. I went ahead to turn the facing to the right side of the fabric, and then I took the front piece to the sewing machine to sew the edges following the direction of my finger. After sewing the edges together, I went ahead to join the shoulders of the front piece and the back piece together, and this is how it looks like. The next thing I went ahead to do is to cut a band of 2.5 inches for the sleeve length, and then I went ahead to pin it down, and then I took it to the sewing machine to stitch it. The next step is to join both the front piece and the back piece together, following the direction of my finger. But remember that while we were cutting the cloth, we notched the area for the slit, so we would stop our stitch there and then we'll fold the slit area just as you see me doing. In order to attach the pocket to this dress, I went ahead to measure from her shoulder to her waistline, which is 19 inches. I cut the pocket using a measurement of 12 by 12, and then I went ahead to fold the edges using a length of 10 inches and a width of 9 inches. I placed the upper part of this pocket on the point that I marked our waistline measurement, and then I went ahead to pin it. Afterwards, I took it to the sewing machine to sew the sides. I did the same thing for the other side, and this is how it looks. The next step is to mark the point on which you tack your cover buttons to. I used a distance of 2.5 inches for mine. I went ahead to tack the cover buttons on the points that I chalked. I went ahead to wrap the extension cord of my tassel on the last button. Make sure you wrap it very well so that it is very tight. And then I went ahead to tack the extension cord to the dress with my needle and thread so that it doesn't lose. The last thing I went ahead to do is to sew the hem of this dress. And that's it for today, Empire fam. Thanks for watching to the very end. I hope you found this tutorial very helpful, and if you're new to my channel, please kindly subscribe, like and share my tutorials. Don't forget to also put on the notification bell so you'll be notified when next I put on new tutorials. See you in my next video. Bye.